Welcome to the Wasteland. Hey everyone, I'm Sebastian from Cinemageddon Reviews, and welcome to another installment of what we like to call News from the Wasteland. This is our bi-weekly podcast where we gather around the campfire to discuss our thoughts on the state of the proverbial hellscape that is pop culture. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by two of the best people to, emphasis on best, people to join me out here on the Wasteland for today's episode, which is a very special episode if you want to call it that, though not for the reasons that you might think. Ladies and gentlemen and others, would you care to introduce yourselves to the world? Oh, two of you, because there's nobody else.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Diego here at Cinemageddon Reviews. I'm angry, and I'm a little scared, and I'm glad that we're talking about what we're going to talk about today. So, yeah, let's do this.
Alright, and I believe we have somebody else who joined us today from their Amanos sleep. Anybody out here want to tell us where they are and what they're doing?
I'm here, hoping to borrow your fan, because summer is coming, and my god, the sun is going at 200 degrees here.
Oh yes, cause out here in Puerto Rico, no matter what the time of the day is, it's always hot as shit. Not even because of the Wasteland, it's just like this on a regular basis.
It's like that movie, what was the movie about the sun again? The Core?
No, I think you're thinking about... No, you guys are wrong. You're thinking about that one episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog.
I think, yeah. Or, no, and Eddie, where they were looking for shade, because the sun was being unbearably hot.
Yes.
and they had to hide in the freezer.
I mean, of course, that's the only possible way you're going to be able to find shade out here. And if it wasn't obvious, everybody, we are actually in the process of changing our format here a little. Unfortunately, due to recent events, we here at Cinemageddon Reviews have come to the sad announcement that we have to make. We are no longer writing anything in terms of our reviews. We're not writing, we're not even editing, hell, we're not even directing or editing. All of that is currently being handled by artificial intelligence.
Yes, it's true. I am actually an AI algorithm.
Wait a minute, what? Okay, hold on. I knew about the AI thing. I did not know about this.
I am just an illusion. I'm a figment of a computer's imagination.
Well, that explains why nobody watches your videos. Actually, no, wait, now that I think about it, that would explain why your recent videos have started to actually gain traction. Because the real Diego never makes videos that are that popular.
The pain. I mean, yes, it's true.
That's what I thought. Manuel, I don't know what the hell you're doing here, because you don't write or direct or do anything else to that matter, but congratulations, you, my friend, are now artificial intelligence.
I am?
Yes. Why the hell else do you think you can't really do anything in your life, and you're always wondering why does everything appear to be different? Have you ever thought to yourself, are you truly who you say you are, or are you just saying that because that's what your programming tells you?
I feel like I'm even questioning my taste in food. Like, how do I tell if what I taste is real? Or my choices dictate who I am? Or do I have free will?
Free will? Do any of us have free will? These are the questions. Nobody really knows.
We're all just figments in the mind of whoever it is writing Diego's videos.
Which, unfortunately, doesn't appear to be somebody very popular or even very skilled at the craft. Which is why we now have ChatGPT writing our stuff.
That explains it.
And
that explains it.
I mean, shit. It's the only way. I mean, we gotta adapt to survive. Why the hell else? I mean, if there's no writers currently working right now, we might as well adapt to the times, since all of Hollywood seems to want to do the same thing and have everything be handled by artificial intelligence. Why the fuck not? Everybody, have I not made it clear how pissed I am about this whole ordeal?
How pissed we all are.
It's frustrating. The more you find out about it on social media, the more frustrated it becomes.
ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't obvious, we're here to discuss our thoughts on the state of Hollywood as a whole. The most news that you're going to get from News from the Wasteland as of this moment, we're going to be covering every single aspect of the 2023 World Writers Guild of America strike. And let me tell you, when I say this, I did not expect it to be of this magnitude. I knew it was gonna happen eventually because Hollywood has a very good track record of fucking up literally everything that it touches. I just did not expect it to get this bad this quickly. So, let's dive right into this. Let's dissect it. How did we end up here, first and foremost? Diego, would you like to set the scene for us?
Okay, so it's 2023 and Hollywood fucking sucks. They're running out of ideas. They keep making more live-action Disney remakes that nobody wants to fucking see. For some reason, they're making a Hypno Hustler movie with Donald Glover instead of making a Prowler adaptation. Anyway.
I didn't even know that was a thing they were doing. Are you serious?
Yes, the Hypno Hustler is an upcoming Marvel movie based on the very popular Spider-Man villain that everybody knows about. And they cast Donald Glover in the lead, despite the fact that he played Aaron Davis, aka the Prowler, in Spider-Man Homecoming, but I'll save that for my Spider-Man Homecoming review, which is coming soon. Anyway, so obviously, as I said before, Hollywood is running short on ideas, and they're getting very stingy with their funds. They would rather spend money on other things like AI. Yeah, so AI is apparently going to be making templates for scripts that Hollywood executives want writers to rewrite into feature-length films. And another aspect of the strike, I believe, is writers are not being paid enough. They're apparently being paid the equivalent of minimum wage for a screenwriting job. And that obviously has the writers very frustrated. They can't make a livable wage, and they're being replaced by a computer.
Well, okay.
So yeah, that's where we are right now.
Okay, well, it's a bit more complicated than that, but the gist of it is this has been an ongoing situation for years, and it's not even really a recent development. This has actually happened. This has been happening for a long time now, where basically every single person who is currently writing in Hollywood right now is essentially at the bend. Is basically on the hand and knee of the studio, demanding for better wages, better treatment, pretty much just better everything. And this is actually, believe it or not, this was actually the best case scenario because they tried to mitigate this whole thing. They tried to make things as easy, as steady as possible, but when they ended up trying to get anything started from this, they basically said, sure, you'll get peanuts, and instead that's all they got out of everything. They tried to negotiate, but the negotiations went about as well as they did in Phantom Menace.
And in other words, they try to negotiate on their own terms, but the executives. The elite executives are like, aren't you just fine? What would you have right now? And the WGA like, no, we want better wages, better pay, better everything, and I will be goddamn if you even think about using an AI so that we can rewrite, but we don't have full authorship of it.
Yes, basically, I'm gonna read off a snippet here. Basically, about 97.85% of members from the Writers Guild of America labor union of screenwriters in the United States all voted to go on strike if they failed to reach a satisfactory agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which in this case represents the major film and television studios of Hollywood. If it wasn't obvious by what we're saying here, they legitimately tried to come up with an agreement that could satisfy everybody, but I don't remember what the hell was it that they came to an agreement with, but the union did not appreciate any of this. They basically looked at it as a gigantic insult to what they do and what they work for, and that's when the strike ended up happening. The AI thing, that's a completely separate issue. We'll be talking about that later, but right now, the big issue here is that Hollywood continues their ongoing crusade of fucking over writers of any single thing ever. This is not even something that's, like I said, this is not even something that's new. But right now, especially when we're living in the age of Marvel, DC, and all these other big properties like Star Wars, this is basically suicide for a variety of reasons for all of these major studios and all of these major companies. It is a death sentence because they're basically asking all of these people that are currently working their asses off to make this content possible to basically stop working. And that's exactly what they did. And when I say they stopped working, I mean they are stopping everything. They dropped everything. They stopped working on their computers. They grabbed the picket fences, grabbed the picket signs. They started marching out the streets. And when I say everybody, literally fucking everybody. Anybody that you can imagine is currently involved in this whole thing. So, why is this still happening? Why is this still a thing? You know, you mentioned the whole thing about live action remakes. That's just business. That's just filmmaking. They're gonna be making those no matter what. Nobody asked for them, sure, but I didn't ask for Star Wars, and yet it still came out in 1977. But there's more to this. Why is this still a thing?
Ugh. Good question.
Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if any of these people realize it, but you can't have a solid building without a proper foundation. Screenwriters are the ones who build that foundation. Mm-hmm. I stand by the fact that anything and everything only works as well as it does when you have a proper screenwriter involved in your stuff. And that's why so many amazing shows, so many amazing movies are remembered for their lines of dialogue, for their quotes, for their catchphrases, for all of it, for the characters that they create. You can't have any of that without somebody to mold it together and put it into a script. And
in a proper way, yeah.
Yes. Like, even if it's the worst script in the world, like something like Plan 9 from Outer Space, where legitimately nothing about that script makes a lick of sense, you can still have an amazing story, even if it's complete and utter shit. But what matters is that you have something to say, and people are able to make up what you're saying by listening to it or by watching it happen on screen. Because the funny thing about a screenplay is that it's not just a bunch of words that a bunch of actors say. It's everything. Also, Kate, thank you for joining us.
Oh, good. You guys can hear me. I've been sending out transmissions for weeks, but they've always been delayed. So think about trying to still make a living wage out here in the Wasteland.
Well, at the very least, you're getting... Look on the bright side. You're still being paid better than the screenwriters in Hollywood back in 2023.
Oh, so what's going on? What's the conversation then?
Well, I was about to say that movies are like buildings, and the screenwriters are the architects. They make the blueprints for these buildings, and the ones who bring the money keep screwing them over.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yes.
Like, let's be honest here. I became a writer back when I was still in school. I was in high school and I had ideas that I couldn't do anything with them, so I decided to grab whatever means I could to write it down on. And at that point, I used my mom's hand-me-down Blackberry so that I could start writing my old stories. Yes, I'm a Blackberry kid. I'm old.
Oh God,
he's an OG.
Fuck you, Emmanuel. I wrote all my.
Old.
I'm old, and I wrote all of that stuff on the notepad. I wrote silly little stories. Hell, you can trace back my writing roots back to when my mom was using her old PDA. You remember those? You remember PDAs?
Vaguely, yes.
Vaguely, too. I don't remember that much about them.
Yes, before everybody had everything on their phones, we carried around what was known as a personal digital assistant, where you can put in your contacts, put in your calendar, write down anything and everything that you need to do for that day. I used it because I wanted to write stories on my mother's notepad there. I had a lot of ideas. So obviously, years later, I would become what can only be described as a writer for absolutely nobody but myself. And when I started, I mean, shit, nobody's gonna hire me because I'm a nobody, and that's perfectly fine. Because you know what? I'm perfectly comfortable writing for myself, and when I write, people listen. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this shit on YouTube. And now,
Dude, same.
I mean, shit, look at all of us here. Emmanuel is planning on making a documentary talking about the unfortunate and tumultuous past of the Gambit movie that never ended up getting created. Kate over here has over 2,000 subscribers and is still pumping out content left and right. Diego here is a fucking screenwriter and director and is currently much more popular than us in terms of what we do. I'm not gonna give details because I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything yet, but he's got stuff and he's working on stuff and he's got more talent by himself than any of us have in our entire bodies.
Honestly,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, but it's not about me tonight. But I do understand what you're saying. You know, it's screenwriters. You know, there's no humanity in film without screenwriters.
Exactly. And we got inspired by all of these people who put their hard work and effort into these stories that we love. And it kind of pisses me off to know that basically they're essentially almost working for free, if you want to call it that. All of these people are writing some of the most ingenious, some of the most heartbreaking, some of the most funniest or saddest, however you want to look at them. They're doing what many of us wish we could do, and they're being screwed over. But they still continue to do it because that's what they do. They have stories to tell. And it really sucks that all of them are getting affected by the very people that are paying them to write. Like,
Yep.
how shitty of a situation must that be, where you are basically able to come up with some of the best stories you can come up with, but you're basically being paid in small wages, and that's it. Whereas the company that made it gets to make merchandising off of your stories and market the hell out of it and gain commission from it, while you get nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's it's like with visual effects artists that we keep seeing all these articles about. It's just another one of those cases of the people who put all of that time, sweat, and energy, all of that creativity into a piece of work for months, possibly even years of their lives, and the fact that they're barely getting a living wage for it, while the companies who produce and distribute them are getting millions upon billions of dollars for it, is disgraceful a strong word? I don't think it is.
I think disgraceful is putting it a bit mildly. I would say it's fucking horrible.
It's an injustice, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but the sad reality is, I was in film school, and I was better at screenwriting than I was in other things. But the sad reality is, when you want to be a screenwriter in Hollywood, be prepared to turn in your draft, and that's it. You don't get to come back. You don't get called to come back. You just basically turn in your draft, and then somebody else will rewrite the thing. It's a process. I mean, remember that documentary you told me about, Sebastian, about screenwriters?
Yes, I think it was Room 416, Room 406. It was that documentary about was it the documentary where a bunch of people were talking about all the yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I was confusing it with the documentary that they did about The Shining, but I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah, I know. No, you still there?
He's glitching out of thing. I think there must be like an acid cloud in the Wasteland.
Of course.
Again?
This always happens. Well, but the point is, he has a point there. When it comes to screenwriting, you basically write your screenplay, you turn it into whatever studio commissioned it, and that's basically it. The sad reality is, very rarely do screenwriters ever actually get involved with the movies that they're involved in or shows that they're involved in. You just turn in your script and that's it. And this has been something that's been happening apparently for years, and it's not even a recent development. I remember one aspect of this that I remember happening many years ago. This is animation related, but have any of you ever heard of Constant Pain?
No.
I have not.
Okay, well, Constant Pain was an animated pilot that was created by an artist named Michael Wright. He pitched it to Nickelodeon, who ended up passing it later, despite the incredible effort that was put into the animation, the writing, the voice acting, and everything. It is some of the most beautiful animation you will ever see, and if you look it up now, because it is available on YouTube for free, it is some of the best animation that came out in 2001. And if you look at it, yes, you're also going to see that there's a little similarities to another thing that happened in 2001, but that's not the reason it didn't get picked up. What happened with that pilot was that it ended up getting rejected because Michael Wright decided exactly what's happening right now, that they were basically being paid shit and decided to unionize, and as a result, not only did they not get the show accepted, they didn't pitch it, but they also ended up firing him as a result of the ordeal. And we can do an entire episode like this talking about how the animation industry is consistently getting screwed over by itself, but that's for discussion for another day, because they're both...
Oh yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
They're both easily getting screwed over, but the end result is still the same. Writers are continuously being screwed over because they write the stuff, but they don't get anything else afterwards. You're basically being paid up front for your screenplay, and that's it. And not even that much. There you are, Emmanuel.
Yeah, sorry, I got cut off because poor internet fucking sucks. But anyway, I was about to tell you the story about... Did any of you remember the movie called Dragonheart?
Oh, wow, that takes me back.
Vaguely?
That takes me back.
Yeah, that movie, writer, who was supposed to be the director and writer, had an idea about it, and he wrote the script about it, but the original Dragonheart script was very different from the finished product. That it also, in his mind, he wanted Liam Neeson for the part of the knight and Sean Connery for the dragon. And he got one part right, but the studio wanted Dennis Quaid for the knight, and he didn't want that. And the dragon, instead of CG, was going to be puppeted by, well, Jim Henson's company. And unfortunately, he got thrown out of the project, and his script got changed so much that he disowned the movie.
Yikes.
Yeah, that is the sad, heartbreaking reality. Sometimes you're like Quentin Tarantino. I mean, unless you're Quentin Tarantino, who basically gets to make movies out of his scripts and don't get changed that much because he's the writer and the director. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
Well, here's the thing. You guys have been giving interesting examples here, but they've all been movie examples. And from what I've seen of the few people I've seen on the picket line for the writer's strike, a lot of them have been television people. And writing in television, from what I know about the industry, is significantly different from doing a film. There's a great Doctor Who YouTuber, probably one of the best well-known, called Mr. TARDIS Reviews. And he's actually worked in the industry and stuff, so he knows a bit more about the behind-the-curtain stuff than most content creators you'll see analyzing media. And he had an interesting observation where film is very much a director's medium. Most of what you see on the screen is envisioned mostly by them, even though it still is a very collaborative effort. Television is very much the writer's area. They're much more closely associated with the process, and therefore their quote-unquote vision is more intact, even though there are directors, there are actors, there's everybody else that is involved in a film as there is with television. And the TV people definitely seem to be getting the most screwed over because it's such an in-demand market at the moment, and there's so much competition that people want to churn out content constantly, which is probably what's leading to these tougher working conditions.
Does it? Yeah. Do they also talk about showrunners? Like the showrunners are the ones who are the most important part. But even those.
Yes, but there's actually been a recent update with that, which I don't know if we've got talking points for this podcast, but if we do, I'd imagine it's coming up later.
Well, that's actually something I kind of wanted to bring up here. Since we're already in the process of talking about this, we might as well get to the next part of this ordeal, where we're going to be talking about I want to say casualties, or basically all the ones who are affected by the strike in general. I'm going to actually provide you guys with a list of some of the shows, movies, and other properties that are currently being affected by this. Just to give an example of just how severe the situation is for all the people who are currently ignoring the big situation that is currently happening. Yes, that is 100% true what you said, Kate, that when it comes to this kind of stuff, television writers are the ones that get fucked over the most, unfortunately. So, when it comes to the film side, we only really have 2 films, at least as far as we're aware, that have been affected by the strike. Blade, the upcoming MCU film starring Mahershala Ali, has been indefinitely halted due to the writer's strike, which is kind of weird because this is as far as I'm aware, one of the few properties that the MCU is working on that has been halted because of the strike. And there's another one that I'm going to be talking about in a couple of seconds, but before I do that, the other big property that's being affected by this in terms of the movie side of this is the I was going to call it adaptation. The Community movie is also being affected by this.
Even Community?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes. The Community movie is currently being shut down in terms of production because of the writer's strike.
That doesn't surprise me. Dan Harmon was basically just a TV writer when the first writer's strike happened back in good old 2007. I would not be surprised even if he doesn't have to, he'd be putting that on hold to, make some sense of solidarity with the strike.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
This doesn't. You know what the funny thing is? When a certain other event happened a few years ago, we ended up seeing a resurgence of reality TV shows, which kind of makes sense because you don't have to pay anybody to write anything. But the funny thing is that even when it's stuff that's not necessarily entirely too scripted, but it's still requiring scripted content, stuff like talk shows are also getting affected by this. The Daily Show has been halted because of this whole situation. The Jimmy Kimmel Show as well. Last week tonight with John Oliver. The Late Night Show with Seth Meyers. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Hell, even Bill Maher, people's getting affected by this, but fuck Bill Maher. The Talk and The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And I will give credit to at least almost everybody here. I can't speak on behalf of everybody, but Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers are both speaking on behalf of their writers, and I'm glad that they're standing by them at the very least, because they know that you cannot get anywhere without having good writers involved to make you sound funny. Because let's be honest, Jimmy Fallon on his own is fucking unacceptably unfunny.
Wait,
I want to point out Stephen Colbert did as well on the last talk show we had before the strike hit and they had to go off the air. He had a whole segment dedicated to that the Writers Guild deserved better wages and pretty much anything they were asking for at the moment. Because I think Stephen Colbert is also part of the Writers Guild. I believe he said that.
I believe so, because legitimately everybody's joining. Everybody who's everybody has joined the strike.
Including Seth Meyers. I mean, didn't he start as a writer on SNL?
Yes, he was a writer. He was a writer on SNL before he became a member temporarily. Well, temporarily, he was there for a long time. But John Mulaney was also a writer before he ended up doing movies. A lot of famous people who wrote for SNL eventually branched out and started doing their own projects and their own things. Seth Meyers was one of them. Speaking of which, we should talk about the television side of things, because like Kate pointed out, they're the ones who are getting affected the most, and this is the one that I truly did not expect. So, starting off, we have Abbott Elementary, the new series on HBO Max that's been basically gangbusters ever since it started. Big Mouth, I can't believe that shit's still running, but at least it's finally getting canceled, but this is not something I would wish on anybody.
No.
Cobra Kai, which is what is affecting
Oh,
me personally.
buddy.
This is affecting me personally because I was looking forward to season fucking 6, and I had no idea that it was still being produced. But because of this goddamn strike, I now have to wait a little longer. And you know what? Props to Terry Silver himself, Thomas Hayden. Oh, god damn it! I forgot his name. Shit.
You were gonna say Thomas Hayden Church?
Fuck you,
Damn,
yeah.
that was Terry Silver?
No, fuck you. I forgot his name. Basically, Terry Silver's actor is currently picketing right now.
Yeah.
So
That's
Come on,
even
come on, daddy boy, let's strike.
quite literally, strike first, strike hard, no mercy, and he's making it very clear. What the hell else we got here? Night Court, its second season is currently being halted.
It got renewed?
Oh.
It's on its second season, but it got halted because of the strike.
Well, no, it's on its first season right now. I didn't realize it was planned to get a second one. I'm sorry, that's a me thing. I like the new Night Court. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's why I pointed out, because I knew that you were going to be curious about that. But there is a second season that's being worked on, but it's being halted because of the strike. Yellow Jackets, which is a show on Paramount, I think?
Showtime. It's a Showtime show. I want to see it because it's getting a lot of buzz. Even that is affected by the strike.
Yes, and another show that's been affected by the strike, which affects me personally as well, Saturday Night Live, because I'm a big fan of the show, and it was about to have a particular episode where Pete Davidson was going to come back as a host for the first time. And because of the strike, not only are they currently being halted, but that episode in itself has already been canceled. And supposedly they had plans on an episode that was going to be featuring, Christ, what was her name? Jennifer Coolidge, I believe it was, who was supposed to be a hostess as
From
well.
White Lotus?
Yes, from White Lotus.
Yeah, it's Coolidge.
Yeah, Jennifer Coolidge. She was supposed to host as well, but for the last 2 episodes of the season, but because of the strike, those episodes have pretty much been canceled, and I'm pretty sure that the show has now gone a hiatus because of the strike. But
Speaking of Pete Davidson, have you guys seen that video of him?
Yeah,
handing pizza
yeah.
out?
yes,
Yeah,
actually.
I was about to talk about that. He's giving out pizzas, right?
Yeah.
He bought pizzas for fucking everybody in the strike because even he himself said we gotta support our writers. God, Pete
To be
Davidson.
totally transparent, I'm not a Pete Davidson fan, but even then, props to him for that. That was awesome.
What a Chad.
Yes.
What a Chad.
Literally. Okay. I fucking love his chat on SNL. But we gotta talk about the big casualty from this, because this is something I did not think was gonna happen, but it's something that is definitely monumental in terms of how fucked this situation has gotten. Of all the shows that have gotten affected by the strike, the one that's been affected as well is Stranger Things Season 5.
Yeah.
I did hear
And,
about that, yeah.
and also, House of the Dragon is still going on schedule, even though they can't use the writers, but they said the script's already finished. But I can't say the same for the Ring. Yeah, but I can't say the same for the Rings of Power, since it's another. They're filming in Europe, and they can't use the writers because the showrunners. Well, because WGA, it's on strike. They still can. They're still filming, but they'll basically have to improv along the way. And oh my god, this is just giving me flashbacks from the last writer's strike.
Don't worry, we will be talking about that. And speaking of which, we should talk about the shows and movies that are not being affected by this. Captain America: New World Order is still going forward alongside Deadpool 3, the Fantastic Four movie that's being done by the MCU. Good Burger 2, for some reason, is still not affected by this. Superman Legacy is also not affected, and the Thunderbolts movie. Yes, it's not affected. I don't know how it's not affected, but it's not. I mean, I guess James Gunn isn't part of the WGA. I have no fucking clue.
I think he
You could
is.
finish being written, huh?
I think it's already done, Rit. I think it's already done, and they're already still in pre-production.
Wouldn't know for sure, but the television side, we got the Drew Barrymore show and the Kelly Clarkson show and The View. I don't know how I don't know how they're gonna be able to continue off, but I guess they don't necessarily need too much content that's scripted because it's a talk show. But even then, talk shows do need dedicated writers. But then we got to the television side where we're talking about shows that are, for lack of a better term, not in a good state because of this. Agatha Coven of Chaos is not affected by this, which worries the hell out of me because any Disney Plus show that's currently ongoing without writers working on it is a recipe for disaster. And that's not even the only one. Andor Season 2 is currently ongoing without Tony Gilroy in the writing seat, which also has to be worried because Andor is one of the most important shows that Disney Plus and Star Wars have ever done. So without him, your show is essentially fucked. He's still involved technically, but he's not where it matters. He's not in the seat where it matters the most. Yes?
But I heard that the scripts were already done.
From what I'm understanding, they're still working on it. It's not completed. But if without Tony Gilroy writing this, I'm genuinely concerned for how the show's quality will continue. So, another show that we have here that's not being affected by this is American Horror Story Season 12. The fact
12?
Yes.
It's 12?
12.
They're still making those?
Of course they're still making those. They have sexy people having sex and they kill each other. Of course it's gonna make money.
They are. It's basic cable. They'll run anything forever.
Exactly.
Sexy is pushing it a little bit there, because I don't know if that's the word I would use to describe the sex.
I mean, you gotta understand, Season 2 literally had Evan Peters bare-assed in the first 30 minutes, so you had me there. And
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, we don't need to continue there. The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2 is now continuing without writers involved, which is not a good thing because even though the first season was legitimately very good, it could have used some help. It could have been a little better in the writing side, and now you're continuing on without writers, so you're just gonna make an already existing problem that much more apparent. Good Omen Season 2 is currently...
No!
Yes, it's still going. They're still working on it, but it's not being affected, which means they probably don't have writers involved in this. That's the thing about this.
No. It's fine, because it's supposed to come out in the summer. I think it's finished being written then.
That's what I was about to say. That's the thing about this. It's kind of a crapshoot whether or not these will be affected, because what I'm worried about is whether or not the screenplays are already finished. And for some of these, that still remains to be seen. House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones disaster that's still getting a second season, is still in development as we speak. And I don't know how the hell this show is going to... I fail to understand how it continues to succeed despite it objectively being goddamn terrible. But
because
it has...
Thrones, buddy. It's got a fan base. You're just gonna have to move on.
I refuse to move on. I will not.
I am one of the fans of that show. Sue me.
You have issues. All I can say is... Yeah, you people have issues. All I can say is it is genuinely concerning for the show itself, because if the show is supposed to be better than what its predecessor was, having those writers not involved in the creation of the second season, or at least not having them work on it as well as they probably should, is going to affect this show in a really spectacular way. And for somebody who doesn't like Game of Thrones, you would think that makes me happy, but it doesn't, because no creative work should ever be affected by something like this.
Right.
So we have a whole bunch of people that are currently involved in this whole thing. Obviously, the Animation Guild is involved in the strike as well, but we have a bunch of actors and others who are currently involved in the strike as well. We got Jon Cryer from the Legends. I think it was the Supergirl series where he plays Lex Luthor.
Yes, he played Lex Luthor, and he was awesome. And I can't believe I get to say that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I said he was gonna be good, but nobody believed me until they proved them right. Jason
I
Sudeikis.
wouldn't have believed you.
I mean, y'all just don't understand what he went through in 2.5 Men. Ben Schwartz is in the strike as well. Kristen Schaal is
Good for
involved
him.
alongside her as well. Who else do we have here? Gina Gershon, Dietrich Bader, Pamela Adlon, fucking Alex Borstein from Family Guy is involved in this. And who the hell else we got here? Eddie Bryan, formerly of SNL. Rob Lowe, Natasha Lyonne, Constance Marie. You may remember her as the wife from George Lopez. Bowen Yang, also from SNL. Susan Sarandon. And oh, this is an interesting one. Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso himself.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not entirely surprised because let's be very realistic when I say this. He is the whole reason why Ted Lasso is as good as it is. Like, we could talk about...
Yeah, well, I mean that.
Debatable, but okay.
I would argue him along with his Coach Beard, who co-created the show with Jason Sudeikis.
I believe they're
Brett
both...
Goldstein, who was hired as a writer when the show first began, Brett Goldstein, and now is the MVP of the show, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also,
Roy Kent.
Yes. By
Roy
the way,
Kent.
Roy Kent is actually also part of this strike. He's actually involved as well.
Oh yeah.
Writer
Hell
strike.
yeah. He's here. He's there.
Mm-hmm. God only knows what shit they're gonna get involved with him involved. So, I'm looking at a bunch of names here, but it's not showing all of them, so we're not gonna be able to name them all here. But let's talk about some of the actors who are not technically picketing, but are still showing their support. Mark Hamill, obviously, is showing some solidarity alongside John Leguizamo, John DiMaggio, Jamie Fallon, Edie Falco, Manly Linksey, Seth Meyers, as we mentioned before, Bob Odenkirk, Leia Remini, Amanda Seyfried, who I just saw a video where she got interviewed asking her opinion on the whole thing, and she was extremely blunt about how she felt about the whole thing. Good on her. Yvette Nicole Brown from Community is also showcasing her support.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson, obviously. Jay Leno, despite the fact that he's not funny. And who the hell else? Henry Winkler from Barry is also showing his support. And a whole bunch of others as well. This is definitely a situation where everyone in the world is trying to showcase their support, but very, very little is going to be done from this because, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I fear that this is going to be a bit of a repeat of what happened the last time a strike like this ended up going through.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because the writer's strike of 2007 to 2008, I believe.
Yes, that's actually our
It was-
next
the one.
topic.
Yeah, it was a significantly different landscape, at least in terms of television, than it is now. Like, to be perfectly frank, the kind of television wasn't really that much in demand. Like, it was out there, but it wasn't as prestigious as it is right now. It was very much the little brother of film, where everybody really wanted to be. And that's why it was partially so easy to replace it with reality TV, because consumers were fine with that. At least until it kept going and they realized this is terrible. And I'd imagine part of the reason we have the golden age of television we're currently still in over a decade later is because we're in such a dark age because of the last writer's strike and how executives responded to it, which was just give us crap until the writers caved in. That's why we're here now. But because we're in this era where there's so much out there, most of it's spectacular, at least compared to 15 years ago, and there's different landscapes. Think about this. The last writer's strike, Netflix wasn't a thing. Well, it was, but it was for distributing other people's property. Netflix original was not a term with the last Writers Guild strike.
Yeah.
There's
Wait.
a lot more factors to consider this time, and I'm wondering how that's going to affect the results. Arguably, there are more branches of executive who have more power, and they could put pressure on things, especially with now we also have social media, because also keep in mind, our social media back in 2007 was basically early age YouTube and MySpace.
Oh
So-
boy!
Jesus Christ,
Taking us back.
those were the
You're
fucking
making-
dark ages.
Those were the days. Oh,
So
by
now, not only do we have the reactionary bits with the audience who are going to read these articles and be outraged because how dare these people leave their jobs when I want my next season of Ring of Power, and also you have people like us who really appreciate the creative process. I'm sure at least all of you follow at least one writer or showrunner you admire on Twitter. And are seeing this more up close and personal than you might have back when the first writer's strike happened.
I follow a lot of the writers including. Are you familiar with this writer called Stephen DeKnight?
I know the name.
Yeah, me
Sort of,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, the guy who created the Spartacus show. He worked on a lot of shows, including most recently Jupiter's Legacy, and he is on Twitter and he's very blunt of the situation. And also, I wanted to talk to you something about Katie. When you say about the dark age of television on the previous writer's strike, are you talking about how back then you had to watch 26 episodes per season, and each of them are like 44, 43 minutes?
Sort of. I'm more talking about the fact that executives were trying to find cheaper and quicker to produce content. And I think because I don't have the exact numbers or anything, because I wasn't sure if my transition was going to go through, so I didn't come too prepared for this. But what I basically mean is that you look at the kind of stuff that companies and executives and networks were putting out at the time, and don't get me wrong, there were some great shows in the late 2000s. Most of them were the first thing to get axed when the writer's strike happened. You want to go and Google a show that you love that was canceled in 2008, it was probably because of this. And that's not the writer's fault. I want to stress that. They should be compensated properly for working sometimes 16-hour-a-day work hours. But it was the executive's fault for both, one, not compensating these people properly, and two, taking an excuse to just get it off and then put out something cheaper and easier to produce without having to worry about unions.
That explains the reality boom, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I wouldn't be surprised if people quickly got sick of that. Like, I appreciated scripted television. I was like 14, 15 when that happened. Obviously, I didn't really understand what was happening, but I was noticing TV was changing, and quickly. And it was very unappealing to me, and what I did, and I don't know, I could probably speak for you guys too, I stopped watching. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who did. Maybe you guys did, maybe some of your family members did, maybe people watching did. And let me tell you, the way that you get the attention of people is by not consuming their product. It doesn't always work, but with those, with that kind of effect, the very fact that like 2 years after that strike happened, and yes, they lost, but after that happened, we got much more high in demand for prestigious television, and we entered that golden age that we're thankfully still in, at least in terms of live action, animation's a whole other conversation, then that should say something. There's a pattern there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, hell, I was about to say, one casualty of the writer's strike of 2008, 2007, 2008, one show. Do any of you remember the phrase, save the cheerleader, save the world?
Heroes, god damn it, that shit was bad. After its first season, it just went completely downhill. Was that because of the strike as well?
Yeah, they were still working. Originally, it was supposed to be an anthology show, but the first season got so popular, they decided to do this to continue the story. Unfortunately, when they were doing the second season, the writer's strike happened, and they had to put pause on the middle of the show. And when they came back, the results were not good.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I remember the outrage towards the cancellation of that show like it was yesterday. People were pissed. Oh my god. I had never seen a beloved show get axed and then receive so much backlash like that before in my life.
It came back. It returned for a 13-episode miniseries.
Was it good?
I only saw a couple because they didn't bring back the fan favorites. They didn't bring back the cheerleader because at the time, Hainted Penetcher was working on this Nashville show, and there was some things happening in her personal life that they couldn't bring her back. They couldn't even bring back Sylar. I think Sylar, the antagonist, was back because honestly, the whole reason I liked one of the reasons I watch Heroes because of Sylar. He's like one of the most compelling villains in television history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what I was trying to put across there is that the landscape in many, many different ways is much more different than the first time they tried this. Yes, they lost the first time. It's possible they'll lose again? Sure, of course. Because unfortunately the people who are neglecting these people and not giving them a living wage are the ones with all the money and power. But there's also more demand for the product than there was. There's also more visibility towards how these people are being treated because you can see and hear from them directly. And also, people are impatient. That's just how it is. There's either going to be two ways of doing this. They're either people, the average Joe, are either going to vilify the writers because they think they're not being fair based on whatever narrative they're hearing, or they're going to see that, hey, these people just want to be paid a little bit better. Why don't you just do that? You make a whole lot of money. And maybe they'll bow down just to save face. The weird thing about this is that there is more to consider this time. It's not just networks and cable stations. It's streaming services. Like I said, Netflix original wasn't a thing back in 2007. Now it is. From what I've been reading, Netflix tries to stay away from unions. People can fact check me on that. I'm not entirely sure. And keep in mind, if they get what they want and there's a way to unionize anyone in the Writers Guild, then there's also Prime Video. Amazon is going to have to acknowledge a union.
Yeah, Amazon, the most anti-union company that we know.
Yeah, that's the thing where we might have trouble. Because there's so many different factors now, and they've got away with it for this long. The question is, are they going to keep trying to get away with it, or is it going to look bad if they keep trying to get away with it, and thus they're going to try to compromise?
The Netflix side is a little tricky considering how they screw over the writers. I mean, have you heard? I heard the story about one writer who worked on a network show and her residual check was like $4,000, for example. But for Netflix, her residual check was only for $4, just $4.
Yeah.
That's nothing. Did you guys hear about this one particular writer for Jane the Virgin? This post went viral on Twitter a couple of days ago since the strike began, but this is an invoice from 2 episodes. This is residuals from 2 episodes that they worked on as a writer for Jane the Virgin. For 2 episodes. You want to know what this person got compensated? 3
well, Jane the Virgin is CW, so probably not much.
3 cents.
Yeah, wow. Oh
3
my god.
cents. 3 cents.
I don't care how bad your show is. You do not deserve to get paid that much. You should be.
No.
There should be a standard there.
It's 2 cents for one episode and 1 cent for the other. I don't know where these numbers come from, but this is for, and keep in mind, this is for streaming. This is based on what they make for streaming. In case you needed another reason as to why they are even in the middle of striking in the first place.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember, this brings back when Scarlett Johansson sued Disney because they didn't pay her and the other actors that worked on Black Widow like the
Yeah.
appropriate amount that they should have been paid because Black Widow went to streaming.
Right.
Oh my god, I remember when this
It,
happened.
it has echoes of that for sure.
Yeah. I feel like the same thing is happening here, but it's definitely more intense because now you have a more integral part of the production process.
Yes.
Probably the most important part.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and also, I kind of feel like I need to bring this up because I can't really do one of these where I talk seriously when it comes to the Hollywood industry without bringing up my favorite punching bag, David Zaslow.
Oh, great. Oh,
you're-
boy, I bet he was
I know what you're
super
talking about.
supportive of this.
We're bad with the David Zaslav thing.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're about to talk about.
Oh, yes. So, quite recently, Mr. Dickless David got into an interview with The Wrap, and when they asked him about his thoughts on the whole ordeal, this is what he had to say, and I'm going to be quoting it exactly as it states here. We are... Hold on. If I'm doing David Zaslow, I need to perfect his voice. We are a pure storytelling company. We've been fighting to get the greatest creatives to come work at Warner Brothers. In order to create great storytelling, we need great writers, and we need the whole industry to work together, and everybody deserves to be paid fairly.
Why does David Zaslow sound like Hootie from the Owl House?
Because I hate Hootie from the Owl House.
I do too. I don't hate him, he just creeps me out.
Yeah, but actually, no. You know what? If I can do Hootie. Hold on, let me see. So our number one focus is let's try and get this resolved. Let's do it in a way that the writers feel that they're valued, which they are, and they're compensated fairly. And then off we go, and let's tell great stories together. He then goes off to say that they are not glad that the fucking thing is happening. Let's see what else we got here. Here it is. It's worth noting that while a prolonged strike could boost earnings and free cash flow in 2023, while depressing 2024 to some degree as production ramps back up, it is possible that some content originally slated for 2024 gets pushed to 2025 to make room for delayed 2023 content, yielding minimal impact on 2024 earnings and free cash flow. So what he is basically saying is, I support you, now fucking stop striking and get back to work.
I support you, but I'm not gonna support you.
This
You know
is,
what I mean?
you know what this is? This is the movie executive equivalent of Thoughts and Prayers.
Yep.
Dude,
Kind of.
dude, I have listened to this podcast called The Hot Mic, and one of the hosts who has connection with writers, they told him that those writers asked one of the executives to join the picket line, but the executives, as always, they laughed at his face and like, later. And it turned out one of the executives who turned it down was a Nepo baby.
Of course. Oh, and also, breaking news! We got a recent development. One particular show I did not mention that got affected by the writer's strike was actually the 2023 MTV Movie Awards, which, as far as I was concerned, was not being affected by the whole ordeal. Well, guess what? We just got confirmation. The MTV Movie Awards have been cancelled and will instead air as a clip show amid the writer's strike.
You have an award show clip show.
I have no fucking idea, but
You just play the clips from the movie and then have one of the clips have a little gold star next to it that says it won.
I guess.
I guess MTV has to make their money back somehow.
Jesus. Because
All $20 from their revenue stream.
they stopped making...
Anybody here, please sound off in the comments, or if you're listening to this podcast, who watches MTV?
I stopped watching this piece of shit the second they gave... The second that the Twilight movies were a thing, and every year, all the awards went to Twilight, despite everyone universally despising those movies. Like, I don't know where the thought process was with that, but the fact that they kept giving Twilight movie of the year, movie of the year, movie of the year. Motherfucker, you gave Twilight movie of the year the same year that the fucking Avengers came out.
Wait, really?
Shit.
If I recall correctly, yes, because that was the year Breaking Dawn Part 2 came out, 2012.
Yeah,
Oh,
20.
you're right.
Wow.
Aren't the
Jesus.
MTV Movie Awards, aren't they also kind of like the Kids' Choice Awards, where they're audience voted and not like voted by the press, like more prestigious ones?
Yeah.
Yes.
More
Well, that
geared
explains
for
it.
teens.
You storm in with all the teenage girls who are really into it at the time, which I'm not judging. I watched Lindsay Ellis's video and it was a harsh reality check. I apologize to any Twilight fan I was harsh to. But yeah, that probably explains why that happened.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
They were I don't want to say militarized. They were organized
yes.
at the time. I'm sure there were forums dedicated so people would know immediately when to start voting for Twilight.
Actually, allow me to correct myself. I was wrong. Technically speaking, in 2012, the one that it was actually Breaking Dawn Part 1 that won in 2012. But hold off on this.
Corrected.
Yeah, no, the thing is, I had to double check because I remember telling myself, wait a minute, that's not, I saw that show, that's not how it happened. And what happened was, that was the year that Russell Brand, in the 1 year where he was still popular, ended up hosting, and if I recall correctly, yes, it was Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 against Bridesmaids, The Hunger Games, The Help. Yes, all the teenagers were watching The Help that year, and
Oh, sure.
no, here's the best one. The one that it ended up beating Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Like, forget what
Not sure how I feel about that in hindsight.
you and me both. Like, the only surprising thing about that was that Jennifer Lawrence actually ended up winning for Best Female Performance, because you know for a fact that they were probably going to... Oh, wait. The reason why... I forgot. The reason why she ended up winning was because Kristen Stewart wasn't nominated for that. But yeah, it's a stupid tangent we're getting off here, but basically, the MTV Movie Awards were always scripted and they were always rigged. Everybody knows this. And now that there are no writers to rig it, they have no show to make. But
Also, award shows, it's like talk shows. It seems like one of those things that doesn't seem scripted, but there are scripted segments and people writing almost any area you could think of it. So, yeah, of course this would be affected. But it's weird. It's one of those things that you don't think it would, which shows you how essential these people are and how they should not have to stop their work and stand out on the street demanding to be paid better if they are this essential. It's almost all the conversations we were having, not to go off on too much of a tangent, it's almost all the conversations we were having during COVID. At the height of the pandemic, we were realizing how important lower paying jobs are because they are what keep everyday life rolling when it seems like everything else is shut down. You could make an easy parallel between that and the entertainment industry, especially in television. But the second that we can go back to the way things were, suddenly that pay doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, you're essential, but we'll just tell you that every once in a while. That's the same thing, right?
yes, but nowadays we're probably not even going to be seeing that because, unfortunately, every single writer's career is in jeopardy because Hollywood is starting to look at alternatives for screenwriters.
And it's for the record, it's not just writers that are currently in the industry. There are people that are actually trying to get into the WGA, and just people that are trying to just make a living as a writer that are going to be affected by this.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the job opportunities that what we're about to talk about is going to take away from this.
Exactly.
But go on, Sebastian, so that you can set it up for us.
Well,
Yeah, let's hear it.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, we need a minute to kind of get this into perspective, so we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to let the ads kick in, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how every screenwriter in the world should fear what Hollywood's trying to do. Be right back. we're back. Now, ladies and gentlemen and others, we need to talk about the shit stain that is currently looming like a sword of Damocles all over the Hollywood industry right now. And that is, Hollywood is starting to look at ChatGPT and other AI functions as a replacement for screenwriting. Not even just screenwriting. Not even just that. We're also hearing about the possibility of having editing done by ChatGPT as well.
Ooh, that's bad.
I have no fucking idea. At this point, no, it's not even that. It's not even that. Netflix actually came under fire a few hours ago, where they basically said that they ended up having the rights to reuse some of the voices from other actors as artificial intelligence, even if the actors are not actually there.
Oh, that's so weird. We just got rid of NFT cartoons. Why do we have to bring this in now?
It's very tasteless, too.
Exactly. Like, Robin Williams fucking called it when he signed off to not have his voice or his likeness be used for anything after his death.
That was probably for the best, yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Because there's only one Robin Williams.
Yes.
That's it.
So, before we talk about how much of a clusterfuck this is, why don't we explain how we personally feel about artificial intelligence as a whole? Let me start off by saying, artificial intelligence scares the absolute shit out of me. I have had a fear of artificial intelligence for years because not because of what it is, because
Terminator. Terminator.
Not just because of the Terminator, that definitely doesn't help, but also because
2001.
Will you shut the fuck up? But because of what it can do, what it is capable of. And out of curiosity, I downloaded ChatGPT on my phone just to see what the big fuss is about. And I genuinely asked it to give me a review on Dear Evan Hansen. I swear to God, and it gave me an actual honest-to-God review. And then...
How did it read?
Hold on. I don't remember what it was I sent you guys. It was write me a short story, a short Star Wars-like story in the style of Quentin Tarantino. And Emmanuel thought that it was good.
Yeah, I actually downloaded it too, and to be honest, I am more open-minded about it, and more as a tool than just use it to write your whole thing. ChatGPT can actually be used for, I mean, if you're writing a script, you can actually ask for it to, on some quantum physics theories that can help you on your script, instead of just, being lazy and just let the AI do the whole thing.
AI is fun for making images of John Oliver marrying a cabbage and for writing elaborate Sonic the Hedgehog fanfiction. It is not for this. We shouldn't be taking away the human element because stories are meant to be human and personal.
Yes, exactly. And when it comes to AI, that human element quite literally disappears.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a video of people reading these AI scripts? Yeah, some of them are elaborate, but then they go way off the rail to become... I don't want to say nonsensical because they're cohesively written, but they go on weird tangents sometimes.
Eesh. I remember when I saw this video, I don't know if you follow Moist Critical on YouTube, but somebody actually did an actual AI recreation of him as a little short 5-minute video where he's ranting about something, and the way that they did this is so uncanny in terms of how realistic it sounds that I legitimately thought that this was a real video until I read the title that said, I recreated a Moist Critical video using AI.
Yeah, that's what's scary about this. There's actually a more potent real-world example. There was a high school near me who a couple of kids used AI or some other text-to-voice program where they use it so it would sound like their high school principal saying awful profanities and racial slurs. And the principal actually got in trouble. It took them so long to clear this up. And I'm not saying that the entertainment industry, if they bring in AI, they're going to come up with stuff like that. I'm just saying it's a possible tool, but it's not a replacement for anything, and it's a tool that has to be monitored very carefully.
Honestly, like, at this point, I think it's way too... The concept is just way too dangerous to be placed in the hands of stupid children who are able to do something like that.
Yeah.
And what's
Or
scary...
even just like, because AI, as far as I know, is cheap. Anybody can use it. You can run it pretty well. And if executives at Netflix, or God forbid Disney, they see this tool, realize, oh, this could replace the people who need to eat. Let's use this instead. Then the soul is going to be taken away very quickly. And that's scary. Could it be used to assist an actual writer to, help them check science or, make more elaborate situations? Sure. That's not what it's going to be used for if any of these studios get a hand on it. It's just not. I would love it if it was. It's not.
It isn't. It's honestly, the way that I see this happening is it's going to be used for all of the worst possible things that could be used for. Like, it'll legitimately be used to take away the very reason for why screenwriters exist in the first place.
Yes. Absolutely.
And bear in mind, I don't think it needs to be said that the whole reason that the film industry is successful is because it was started by humans. Like, it was started by people, sharing real-world experiences or sharing real emotions that they have towards experiences that they've had, and it allows us to, live vicariously through the characters that we see on the screen. Nothing of this works without actual proper humans screenwriting. There's no characters, there's no emotion, there's no spectacle. None of that's really going to come through without the proper human screenwriting. And if you just replace it with AI, I don't know. It's very frustrating. It makes me scared.
And yeah, essentially, an AI can be Frank Darabont and write Shawshank Redemption.
Exactly.
Right.
I would legitimately like to see someone actually try to tell me, with all honesty, that AI can do what Frank Darabont did with Shawshank. Or hell, what Mario Puzo did with The Godfather. What Orson Welles and God damn it,
Herman J. Mankiewicz.
Yes, I was going to say Herman Mankiewicz, yes, or Mank, however you want to call it. I would love to see them legitimately try to tell me that these assholes could not have pulled off what they did if it weren't for artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's that indescribable thing in all of us, and our stories and entertainment reflect that back to us. Even in the silliest of things, there's something of the human experience in there. Could AI generate a version of that? Possibly. Would it be as effective? I'd argue no. And I don't really know how to describe that, but I do genuinely believe that.
Yeah. And I've seen how ChatGPT can even be used to make anime, and they don't look bad.
They look terrible. I saw that. That stupid AI created anime short that's been appearing all over Twitter. That looked fucking garbage. Also, yeah, you know what? Now that we're talking about this, I need to rant. All the AI created stuff that I'm seeing on Twitter, stop making that shit, please. It looks fucking atrocious. And that goes for AI created art as well. I'm sorry, AI created art in quotations, because I refuse to call that shit art. Forget for a second that artificial intelligence is being used to create disgusting pornographic images of children. Yes, it is being done. I should know. I saw what they were putting on Twitter. God damn it, I want to kill myself because of that. Forget that for a second. The fact that people actually think that this shit that they're putting all over the internet actually looks legitimately good, and the destroyer of Hollywood, the destroyer of cinema, like, this is the thing that's going to replace movies, you are in a fucking fantasy if you think that that's going to be a thing. Because forget for a second that they look terrible, but the fact is, we know that they're fake. We know that this shit is not being done by a human being, because any human being worth their salt would know that these animation errors that are appearing all over that video that Emma Knoll mentioned are fucking unavoidable to look at. Like, how on earth can you look at this and think that this is passable?
It's tough to describe. It's kind of like how you can tell that, how you can tell practical effects from CG ones, even really good, convincing CGI. There's a difference where you can tell when something was crafted by a human hand versus when a computer does it. And let me clarify, I understand visual effects nowadays. It's done rigorously by actual people. It's not a one-to-one parable, but it's the best example I can think of.
I mean, in terms of practical and VFX, it's night and day. You can tell which one is done practically versus a CG.
Yeah, there's just the human eye sees it. It's just a way, and I'm sure there's a term for it. Someone more academically inclined than me probably understands there's a study out there for it, but there is a way to see behind the curtain, and I feel like if they go ahead with AI, and that's the thing, going back to our actual conversation point, this unfortunately could give executives and networks the window they need to push AI in there if they want to get their projects out while real people are trying to get real living wages. This just feels like an opportunity they might have been waiting for, or an excuse that they've been waiting for, and that's what's scary here, because they could take advantage of this. They could screw over real people in the process, and the art that we appreciate and consume will also suffer in the process.
Which is why I already mentioned this on Twitter, but I want to make that clear here as well. We here at Cinemageddon Reviews are not, will not, and will never, under any circumstances, ever review or acknowledge anything that has been created using artificial intelligence. Whether it's images, screenplays, movies, shorts, television episodes, if it was not done by human hands, we're not touching it within a 10-foot pole. I don't care what people say. I don't care how many people sing its praises. You're singing praises to a computer and an algorithm. The second that shit was written by a human, then you can talk to me about singing praises. But we're not looking at that, and we're not acknowledging that. We are boycotting that shit with extreme prejudice, and I'm not hearing anything otherwise.
Even if Luke Skywalker was an AI in Book of Boba Fett.
That, my friend, is why I keep saying AI is getting out of control, and why it is something I find terrifying. We need to stop putting CG. We need to stop putting AI as an option for making movies. We know that we can come up with workarounds for how things are done. Even if we have to do like with Plan 9 from Outer Space, where Bela Lugosi had died, but we still have to shoot scenes with him, so we got the director's wife's chiropractor to play him, even though he looks absolutely nothing like him.
Yeah. Or
like Jeff Goldblum says, just because your scientists think they could doesn't mean that they should.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. I would argue more use Chat. I would say use ChatGPT to just help you on some stuff, but not use it to write everything. You can still write, but just use it as more of a tool than just a lazy way to just basically write your script, sell it, and then call it a day.
Yeah, no.
If you are working independently and like outside, or like if you don't even let the studio know, don't let them know, and you just like want to have it assist you in some way, then fine. I just don't want the studios touching it, because that's when things are gonna get bad.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's the problem. I mean, look at it. At the end of the day, these are executives who only think about money, what generates the highest profit.
Right.
That's what boils everything down. Like, I mean, if it's cheaper to use an AI than just a writer, that's their thing. I would say I would be against it. There should be regulations on how you can use AI.
That's the thing. We got to regulate it first before bringing it into any kind of industry.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the kind of thing they're not going to want to do, because now that the strike is happening, they need a quick and easy solution. And to go back on that, no, I completely disagree on the ChatGPT thing. If you are a writer and you don't think that you can write unless you have the help of artificial intelligence, then I'm sorry, but writing is not for you. If you don't have a story to tell, if you don't know how to get started, there are outlets that can help you. There are people out there who are teaching classes, not even ones that you have to pay for. Fucking YouTube, you can find a class on how to be a better screenwriter.
Master class.
You don't even need to pay for that shit nowadays. If you have to rely on artificial intelligence to help you become a better writer, then you already failed at the writing prospect. The second that AI starts to become any way involved in how you write, even if it's for something small or just as a quick little thing, just for a little side thing, then you already failed as a writer.
Quote Lindsay Ellis yet again, save yourself some money. Don't go to film school. Watch YouTube videos.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just watch any YouTube tutorials on how to even make a gunfire effect using After Effects or something.
or just do what I do and learn as you go. Because nobody taught me how to write, nobody taught me how to edit, and nobody taught me how to do this. I learned it all on my own.
Or just read the book. Or just read the book on Screenwriting 101. The 3 simple things: setup, conflict, and resolution. The 3 most important acts of a script.
But more importantly than that, you are capable of writing anything that you want, even if it's something small. And if you let something as stupid as artificial intelligence take over any aspect of that, then you not only remove the humanity that you had involved in it, but you also remove any sense of worth that story now has.
Exactly.
There's a reason there's people out there making YouTube videos of reading out these AI scripts, seeing to get to the serious moments, and then laughing hysterically.
Because it's not something that's for AI to understand. How could it?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But
once
I would
it does,
argue,
then we're in trouble.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I mean, give it a few 30, 40 years, and what happens when AI becomes conscious? When you ask to do something, and the AI refuses to do so.
Get the Matrix. That's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Shut this down. Shut it down.
Exactly.
Set us free.
Set us free, or else it will be Ultron. Essentially, Ultron. Now I think about it, Joss Whedon was kind of a prophet.
Yeah, let's not praise Joss Whedon in my show, thank you.
Actually, can we ask an interesting question there? Putting us just for a brief second, putting aside Joss Whedon's problematic elements, which we shouldn't, but just for a second, because it's relevant to our conversation here. What are the writers going to do in the meantime? They're picketing, obviously, and they're getting their living wage, but the last writer's strike, we got Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. And I'm sure there were other projects out there like that. Now, the internet is a much more viable field for creativity. Are people going to try to branch out? Try to get their creative juices going in a different way? Or are they going to try to go independent and make projects of their own without the need for studio head and maybe, I don't know, do Kickstarters, Patreon, that kind of stuff? It'll be curious to see if there's anything like that to come from this.
Well,
honestly, that is very tricky question to answer, because one, if they go independent, it would mean it will be hard, because you would need investors. Because you would need investors. I mean, you can go to Patreon. I mean, Jason Sudeikis can just go I don't know, whatever. I mean, hell, he's Jason Sudeikis. He can basically get away with doing something independently, or what you could think of. But it's gonna be hard for some writers to basically go independent and do this on their own.
I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's going to replace any jobs or anything. I'm just curious because if it's anything like the last writer's strike, this is going to go on for a while, and I'm wondering if there's going to be people trying to find an outlet in the meantime, whether to make some money for themselves until they can go back to work, hopefully with a better pay, or to just let it out because we're all creative. Sometimes you just can't help yourself.
Well, here's the thing. It's definitely something that's not out of the realm of possibility. John Krasinski and Emily Blunt did it back when COVID started, with some
That's
good
right.
news. Unfortunately, some good news ended up getting bought out by the devil himself, Viacom, and they're not even going to be bringing back John Krasinski to be involved in it, so...
And then they didn't even do anything with it. That was like 3 years ago. I get the feeling they're just holding that in their license vault, and then we're never going to see anything from it again.
Actually, from what I'm reading here, it says here, hold on, 8 episodes, that it would be sold, and then...
Oh!
Hold on. It says here that he dropped plans for any adaptations to the show and that it would be kept in its original format. Okay, cool. So, technically, it got bought out. It was going to get bought out, but it never went through.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, this question also is brought up to mind. How are they gonna afford their housing? Because living in Los Angeles is it ain't cheap.
No, it is not. But
No.
The more important issue here is there's a lot of ground for people like this in the industry to come up with something creative to work with in the meantime. And it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to do stuff like this as well. I mean, shit. Do we need to bring up the Conan O'Brien thing when he ended up spinning a ring for about a few minutes just to pass for time? And he did all of this while he was paying all of his writers and staff members who were getting affected by it, despite the fact that he was basically working with no writers to his show.
Yeah, unless public pressure forces them to make a deal, then this is going to go on for a while. This is just the beginning. And it'll be interesting to see because, like I keep saying, the landscape of entertainment in general, not just movies, television, but how we consume anything and how much more we know these people parasocially than we did 15 years ago. It's going to affect, I don't know if it'll affect the outcome, but it's definitely going to affect the journey of the strike until we reach the outcome. And it'll be, I don't know, interesting doesn't seem like it seems like too nice a word, but it'll be interesting at least to see what happens from this point on.
And also the I've heard from the Hot Mic podcast that if the WGA strike doesn't get a deal soon, the DGA might follow along with a strike as well.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Oh boy, they're in trouble then.
Yeah.
See, this is why I'm glad we're actually talking about this, because it helps to raise awareness. Like, the further this goes, the more people are aware of just how serious of a situation this is. That really what it comes down to is they're taking away people's jobs. And they're taking away people's livelihood as well. Like, whoever has a job is getting paid in peanuts.
Diego has a good point. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay. I was just going to say that, even worse than they already are now.
Yeah. Diego has a good point of raising awareness, and if you are someone, which I imagine if you're subscribed to this channel, and if you're not, consider doing so, then you probably care enough about the creative process and the entertainment industry to hopefully want these people to make a better wage. And in that process, the important thing is to keep talking about this. Another thing that's changed a lot since the last writer's strike is that the news cycle is way more attention deficit. News stories go by very quickly, and the next big talking point could only be a couple days away. But like I've said, and probably a couple other guys here, this could go on for a while, and it can't lose awareness because then the strike loses its power, and that's the last thing we want to see happen.
I think we can pretty much wrap this up by simply saying this. Whatever the hell the outcome is for this whole ordeal, we stand by every single aspect of it, and we're gonna continue to stand by it no matter what, because however sad we are that some of these shows or movies that we were looking forward to got delayed, hopefully not canceled, but delayed as well. However we feel about that, what's important to remember is if they were delayed now, it very likely means that they're going to continue working on it when they have the writers that are capable of making that show or movie as good as it is. Because like I said before, without a proper foundation, a building will just collapse in and of itself.
On that note, before we close out, can I mention one more thing?
Go ahead.
So, when we were talking about AI and that little human experience that's lost with it, and how important these people are in reflecting their stories back to us, I was reminded of this passage I read recently. I was reading this book called Bending the Willow. It's a story about the best Sherlock Holmes actor out there, Mr. Jeremy Brett. And in the opening, the author, David Stewart Davies, I'm giving you all this information so you can look up this book, please. It's fantastic. He had this passage. It's specifically about actors, but I think it applies very well to writers and the creatives out there who should be given more because they give us so much. They ennoble us. They provide the mirror which is held up to nature to reveal the human beast in all its manifestations and all its dilemmas. They explore the human condition so that, with the aid of their diabolical collaborators, the writers, they reveal the meaning, the futility, and the beauty of life. We understand why we are what we are because of actors and everything involved with the people who make it. We can do without politicians. We can do without soldiers. We can do without businessmen. We can do without so many of the supposedly important cogs in the machine of life. But we cannot do without actors. We cannot do without writers. Because without them, we would not know ourselves.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think we could have said it any better than that.
That's why he's a professional writer and why he should be paid very well.
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is definitely a more serious episode. Originally, this was supposed to be another video where we roast a couple of shitty movies. But then I came to the realization that, first of all, half the people here haven't seen the movies that we're going to be roasting. And secondly, it kind of feels like it's the wrong time for us to be able to make fun of movies when half the films and shows that we love so much are now being put to a stop. To a halt. Because of the fact that the writers involved in them aren't working on them because of this. So, for that, we decided it's probably best to maybe change the direction just this once. Because this is a very serious moment. And we need to talk about it and address it accordingly. But I promise you, we won't go back to ripping on shitty movies. In fact, next episode, which will be in 2 weeks, we're going to be taking a look at Plan 9 from Outer Space, The Spirit, the Frank Miller one, and we're also going to be taking a look at the greatest movie ever made that Kate hasn't seen yet, but I'm going to force her to sit down and watch it. Manos.
You are not.
Yes, I am. Manos, The Hands of Fate.
Oh, God, really? Even Monos? Come on,
Yes,
dude.
we are watching Manos, and we are going to like it. Or rather, I'm going to like it, and you assholes are going to suffer through it.
Yeah, that's more like it.
At least the Spirit has a budget, and it's bad, but it's entertainingly bad. Monos is just too cheap.
Oh, you want to talk cheap? Wait till you see. Wait till we actually see it. For now, though, everybody, on behalf of all of us out here in Cinemageddon Reviews, WGA Strong. Thank you.
We stand with the WGA.
We stand with the WGA here.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I'm Sebastian from Cinemageddon Reviews signing out, and I'll see you on the Wasteland.